Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 71, Ancient Philosophy. So we are doing today week 11. We are really getting close to the end of the semester, so next week will be our last week. So today is, tomorrow actually the beginning of week 11 from Thursday, tomorrow May 21st to Thursday, May 28th, because next Tuesday there is no class, right? There are no classes, I believe, scheduled, right? May 26th, right? Rather follows Monday's schedule, but in any case, at this point, it's not that relevant, but just to, keep a certain order, right? I mean, so we know this is week 11, and then the last week, 12. Today we are doing Epictetus. You see the name in the syllabus. I call the class for today. The keywords are governing the emotions, and then Epictetus, that's the reading, the Enchiridion, the text you have, which really translates to manual. It's a manual, a handbook, right? I mean, basically, a kind of anticipation of what today maybe we can call, I don't know, the self help books and so on and so forth, right? I mean, how to and so on, okay? So, but before we start, I mean, of course, yesterday we had with some of you a nice, right, Zoom community meeting. We will do again the same. We will do the last one during final exam week, right? The week for that was, scheduled for. We wouldn't take a final exam per se anyway, right? So again, because of the emergency situation, all you have to do is the Blackboard discussion board entries for now. Okay, make sure you do all of them. If you haven't done that yet, begin soon because we are soon closing the semester. So we began again, that was the outline of the course, just to remind everybody of what we had done so far: Lao Tzu, Confucius, and Buddha, right, at the beginning. And then we moved to the pre-Socratics, and then Socrates and Plato, and then we continue with Aristotle, right? We had two classes on Aristotle, and actually the last class, right, week 10, was on Aristotle's books 2 and 3 from right, the Nicomachean Ethics. And I anticipated, in a sense, when we were doing that, what we would be doing today as well, because especially in book 3 of the ethics, right? Remember, the ethics, book 1 is about the concept of happiness. We had a question yesterday, right, Natalia, from you, about interesting question, very good question. Okay, the question of happiness as eudaimonia, right? I mean, to be in good spirit, right? In even in the face of adversities, right? And to keep the balance, right? The balance, the mean, the intermediate point between too much and too little. That's one of the virtues, the best and most basic virtue, right, in a lifetime, which is not easy to do. And so that is, and in order to do that, we had to, we saw in book 3 in Aristotle, be able to deliberate the right way and decide. Then make the right decision. Right now, we can only deliberate about and decide to do things that are up to us, whatever is in our power, right? Because there are many things that happen, circumstances that go beyond our power. There are things that we cannot control, and because of that, we shouldn't, let's put it this way, worry too much, right? I mean, it's not that we shouldn't worry in the sense, I mean, that we shouldn't care. We should care. And the question of care is something that comes back with Epictetus, but we should know how to care. We should learn how to care. In other words, that's the idea about governing. How do I govern, control, master, or manage, or handle the emotions, right? Because the emotions can be so powerful that they can destroy us, right? So we have to be able to do so. Okay, so this is what we see in Epictetus, who belongs in this school, post-Aristotelian, one of the post-Aristotelian schools, right? In the Greek and then a Roman tradition of the Stoics, right? I mean, you can check the word Stoic, look that up because Google it or a dictionary, because Stoic is a word that we use in common language as well, right? A stoic person, right, is a person who is able to face difficulties, adversities, suffering, go through suffering without showing that, right? Without showing the pain. So that's basically what the Stoic attitude is. But Stoic is the name of Stoicism, the name of this school uh, in ancient philosophy, right? That has many thinkers within. One of them is Epictetus that we are reading, who was a former slave and then became in antiquity slavery, the ancient type of, and then became a free man and a philosopher. Another important representative of the school is Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor, right, a Roman emperor. Another important name is Seneca. You can check this name as well, who was Nero's tutor, and Nero, the emperor, right, the crazy Roman, so to speak, emperor. Okay, so but in any case, Epictetus. Okay, what we see in this manual, and again, write something on this. Again, I believe that theoretically, this is not too difficult. It's not like other philosophers we have seen before. But what's difficult, maybe in the Stoic type of philosophy, which is a way of life, really, is to put that in, the teachings, so to speak, into practice, because that's the idea. Just like we already know from Aristotle that ethics is a practical science, right? The science of, let's put it this way, freedom, understood not as the freedom as often people understand, I do as I please. No, freedom as indeterminacy, the indeterminacy that we face, the openness, the open in front of us, and the capacity that we have in relation to those precisely situations, those things that are within our power, the capacity that we have to do and not do them, right? I can do something, I can also not do it. I can speak, I can also not speak. I can help someone, I can harm someone, and so on and so forth. It is this degree of a preference that then I act on the basis of which I act, my choice, right? That's what then we understand as freedom. That's the so write something about this, and what I offer, what I suggest, but you can choose any other passage or give an account of the main ideas in Epictetus. You can link Epictetus back to Aristotle or other philosophers we had done, Socrates, Plato, and so on. Socrates also is, in many ways, he anticipates some of the Stoic moments that we see in Epictetus. I believe that we did in this class, we had done also the Phaedo, right? We read from right Plato's dialogue, yes, Phaedo, and remember, I mean, you can go back and see it at the end of this great dialogue. We see Socrates dying, right, in prison, right, and in being in good spirits, as Phaedo himself says at the outset of the dialogue. Okay, that's a very it's a great illustration, precisely example of the Stoic attitude, right? To be able to face death in even a cheerful, manner, But remember, Socrates says, "Who knows? Maybe that is the great blessing of all," and so on and so forth. Okay, so in any case, I say, write about actually the outset that I will read in a moment from the manual of by Epictetus, and what do you think about that? What is the importance of that wonderful outset that there is precisely some things are in our power and some things are not in our power? That's the very powerful way in which this book, right, not written by Epictetus, but it's his sayings, the one powerful and wonderful way in which it starts. Okay, so what is the importance of this, of understanding and keeping in mind all the time the fact that some things are in our power, we can act and we should act on them. Some things are not in our power, so we should also do something accordingly, not get right, I don't know, for example, stubborn. I mean, I cannot change a situation that precisely I cannot change. What can I do? Right? So the best thing is not to, I mean, the best way of caring for, right, myself and others and situations in general is also to let things go, let things be, if I can't, change them, modify them, and in order to do that, the important which I put in the syllabus, you will see in the suggestion that I have for your discussion, the the ideal, the Stoic ideal. This is what we are talking about, of emotional detachment. Right, I had to be detached, right, in order to be able to deal correctly, ethically with situations. Emotional detachment. I had to be away from the emotions in any way, in a way, in order to be able to govern them. Otherwise, I am governed by them, right? In order to be able to control them. But control is a word that I particularly don't like so much in this context, because I mean, because it might be close to the idea, I repress. It's not a question of repressing the emotions, because that's what we are, right? We are emotional beings. Think about the so many important emotions that determine, condition, shape our life, from fear, one of the most powerful emotions, or love, and so on and so forth. We'll talk more about this, right? But in any case, emotional detachment, which is, you find the word in parentheses in the syllabus and also on Blackboard. Look that word up as well. It's there, apatheia, which is a Greek word, right? Apatheia, from which apathy, but apathy usually, to be apathetic means to be indifferent, um, right? I mean, not to care at all about things. It's not really a matter of indifference as such, unqualified, but it is rather a way of being able to take distance from what otherwise can destroy us. Okay, apatheia, right? The prefix means it's a negation, not, and then patheia from pathos or pathos, depending on the pronunciation. Pathos, Pathos, this Greek word, which means suffering, pain. In this sense, you can also link this back. You can go back to what we saw in when we did Buddha, for example, where in the Buddhist tradition, suffering also is a key element of everything that then happens in that tradition in life, right? I mean. The Buddha himself, right? I mean, it is because of the awareness of suffering that he initiates the journey, right? I mean, Siddhartha, whereby he will then become the Buddha. So, I mean, this pathos, pathos, right? Which is, think about that, a word that we have in English and other languages too. In English, words such as, right, sympathy, right? To sympathize with someone is to share something in terms of the emotions, to precisely, to associate oneself with another person's pain, suffering, sympathy, right? SYM would be with, right? Pathos with, to suffer with. Compassion, same idea. COM is with, just like SYM, with. Passion also is a word that comes from the same pathos, right? Same, right? It's then the Latin, but it is the same pathos, passion, right? So to feel compassion, to feel sympathy, is to precisely, right, share, some of another person's, right, pain, suffering, empathy, same idea. It's a broader, maybe, modality, same idea, right? I mean, to feel empathy. And another word which you find also in, right, I mean, in the root of, in words like pathology. What is pathology? Pathos, and then logy, logos, right, the study of pathos. Pathology then becomes a field within the medical sciences, right? You have physiology, biology, and so on. Pathology is the study of illnesses, right, diseases, right, and same idea, suffering, pain, right? So in any case, pathological, then, I mean, we use that word, very often in an improper way to say sick, right? But in any case, even outside of medicine and so on, what I wanted to call attention to is this important meaning of apathy, apatheia, not to feel pain, to stay away from pain, not to be destroyed by pain. I mean, it's not that, the Stoic ideal is not, oh, there is no pain, there is no. No, precisely just like in the Buddhist tradition, precisely because there is pain, precisely because there is suffering, precisely because there are terrible things that happen, right? But also at times the very, maybe extremely wonderful things. I mean, at times, an extremely wonderful piece of news may be, unsettling for people, may also have some repercussions that ultimately may be negative at the emotional level, right? I mean, the strength of the emotions. The emotions are so strong that they can, upset us, right? I mean, destroy us. And in order to keep what in other traditions, next time we'll do Lucretius, the last philosopher we do, in that tradition also, this, peace of mind and freedom from disturbance at the level of the mind, at the level of the psyche. That's what's important. That's what ultimately happiness is, right? The same happiness that we saw in Aristotle, that eudaimonia, that being in good spirit, even and precisely, especially in the face of difficulties and adversities. This is what we also find in the Stoic tradition, with the ideal of apatheia, right? I mean, again, apatheia doesn't mean, oh, I don't even want to see or think about something. No. It is actually that I do see, I do think about, and I learn how to care, to take care of things. Care is the most important thing, including the care of the self, right? And so emotional detachment is important precisely in this sense, right? I mean, I had to be detached, otherwise I am swept by. the strength of the emotions and maybe overwhelmed and destroyed by them. Okay, so think about terrible situations that happen in life. I mean, and certainly today too, with this, terrible situation of the pandemic that is certainly affecting everybody's life globally, but then some people are affected, have been affected by this in tragic ways, right? And so that's very important as well. Or many other situations, if we look at daily life with its political, cultural, economic, and so on and so forth, set of structures and so on, we see that certainly life is not easy, right, and cannot be taken for granted, and so that facing suffering and pain is something that, or facing the emotions in general, is something that we all had to, experience, and in order to do so successfully, let's say, in this sense, this manual is a kind of a how-to or a book or a self-help book and so on, precisely because of that, right? We had to be able to know, how to care, and so in any case, let me go because, like I said, I didn't want to be too long today, and if I go to the work itself, okay, at times I may use another this is the edition I found for you, but I may use another one, but I try to stick to this one in my reading. I mean, if you go to the beginning, the outset of the Enchiridion, or the manual, section 1, like I said, very powerful, wonderful beginning, outset. There are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power, period. I mean, who could disagree, who could take issue with this statement? I mean, it seems to state precisely a universal and absolute truth, right? I mean, of course. Then he goes into a distinction. You can read that what is in our power, what is not. Right, within our power are opinion, aim. I can change my. Remember, we spoke about aiming with Aristotle. I always aim at something. I can change the direction of my action. Opinion will become important because I anticipate, but you will see for Epictetus, then for Lucretius, also the next philosopher we'll do next time. Very often, we are frightened by the judgment we make of things, the opinion we make of things more than the things themselves, right? So this is something which is in our power. I can't change something that happens to me in my life, but I can change, not change in the sense of those who are in denial, for example, or something, not by denying that this whatever X is happening, but by what I can change is the way I view it, right? My take on it can change. My opinion, the judgment that I make of it, and think about that. At times, if I cannot even make an opinion about something, a certain opinion, right, clear and strong, and opinion, then I can at least withdraw with my judgments, right? I can simply say that's another tradition, post-Aristotelian especially, but it's part of the Stoic kind of framework as well. I can say, well, I don't know. If I don't know, I can say, at least I can withhold judgment, right? I mean, that's also part of the Stoic attitude. That would be more like the skeptic, the word skeptic, right? I don't know, right? I don't know either way, but it is also part of the Stoic attitude, right? We can also do that. I mean, certainly we can work. I mean, it's not that we can play with our opinion the way, in a kind of wishful thinking type of situation that I adjust, fix things and so on just to be happy. No, but I can, you know, work on my opinion, on my judgment, on the way I see, understand, and see things. Okay. So then there are those that are not in our power. He says our body, I don't know, biology, the body that I was born in, the body that I am, right? I mean, it's something that, you know, again, it's not in my power. Reputation, he says office, reputation is interesting too, you know. I mean, I can, of course, I should try my best. I remember also the concept of excellence in Aristotle, but then the reputation that I have is beyond me. It's what people think about me. They can think, you know, whatever, right? So, in any case, so what's important in the second paragraph is that Epictetus says that now the things within our power, that's very important, are by nature free, unrestricted, unhindered, but those beyond our power, they are instead weak, dependent, restricted, alien, you know, foreigner, right? And they are not free, they are fixed. So I cannot change them. So free, when he says that the things that are, you know, within our power are by nature free, that means precisely that we can, you know, act on them. That there is a degree of precisely preference, choice, freedom that we can, you know, modify, for example, the course of our action, the direction of something, and this is interesting. Again, freedom in the sense of doing and not doing something. Okay, not in any other sense, because whatever is by nature, right? Remember, Aristotle also said in a certain way cannot be changed, and so in nature actually there is no freedom. Okay, so what is by nature free is precisely only by nature, by default, by definition, free is what is in my power. I hope this is clear, right? I mean, it is in my power right now to make and not make this video, right? To record this video, right? I'm doing it freely. It is in my power to do it, and so on, to say the things that I say, right? And so on and so forth. Okay, that's basically the idea. So we should act on these things when things that are within our power. When we do so, then we can be, let's say, happy. You know, we can, no one can harm us. This is something that Socrates also says, you know, no one will be, right? I mean, as he says at the end of this page, right? The first page, right? I mean, no one will hurt you. You will not have an enemy, nor will you suffer any harm. Okay. So in any case, this is. Then you read all these, especially highlighted sections. I have a note for you here at the end of uh, section 1 before getting into section 2. I just, you know, say, think about Lucretius, Epicurus, Lucretius, the question of death, you know, but in any case, read that as well. And so then section 2, but we can't read everything together. I mean, like I said, as I said before, this is not really difficult, and so then you write something about this. Section 2 is also important, but I want to go maybe to section 5, read that, a few other things, right? And um, for example, 3 is also, section 3 is interesting too, right? For example, when he says, if you break your favorite cup, right? I mean, people have, right? I mean, my favorite cup, and if I break it, well, then okay, so what? Whatever. What can I do? You know, I mean, it's better to move on and not to be, you know, upset by this, right? Or he continues, if you embrace your child or your wife. Think, always think. That's the question of the opinion that we make of things, the view that we take on things, the judgment that we form in our mind, right? You embrace your child, your wife, whatever, any person, then always think, right? You will find that you embrace a mortal, right? Someone who has to die. I mean, they can't be all the time with you, nor can you be all the time with them. The question of mortality, right? That's another important moment in the Stoic attitude. I like to use this word, attitude, approach, attitude, right? And thus, right, I read again, this is section 3 at the end, right? If you break your cap, whatever, you lose something, right? You if you embrace your child, your wife, think that you embrace a mortal, and thus if either of them dies, you can bear it. The question is to bear something which might otherwise be unbearable, precisely, right? So that's basically the idea. I hope I made this clear. And then section 5 is one of the most important, I believe, most interesting in many ways, but then, there are so many others. Again, go through the manual, read the whole thing, especially pay attention to, as always, the highlighted sections, and, write something, elaborate on this. Okay, he says men, humans, right, are disturbed. That's what I was saying before, speaking about the opinions. Okay, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. Okay, I'm reading. Thus, death is nothing terrible. Otherwise, right, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. And we will see this in Lucretius next time. I will speak about him. Same idea about death is not terrible, right? Death, he will say, Lucretius, is nothing to us. Okay, I will say that next time. Okay, but it's the same idea. It's again the fear, think about that, of the unknown, right? Which becomes particularly important in the case and facing death, but any other situation, right, which is unknown, brings with itself a degree of fear, of anxiety, of, as a modern philosopher says, trembling, fear and trembling, right? So, in any case, I continue the reading of this great passage, section 5. When therefore we are hindered, right, we find, an obstacle or disturbed or grieved, right, we feel pain, let's never impute it to others, but to ourselves. Let's never blame others, right? That is, to our own views, right? And so he says, then it is the action of an uninstructed person to reproach others for his own misfortunes, or one entering upon instruction to reproach himself, and of one perfectly instructed to reproach neither others nor himself. And this is, you can also, if you want, if you will, you can make a link, between Epictetus and Lao Tzu as well, thinking about this. And there are other passages in which there is a correlation between the two. So, that's basically the idea. And there is at least another passage that I want to go over with you, which is also very important. Okay, 11, right? 11. When he says, never say of anything, I have lost it, but I have given it back, restored it, given it back. I prefer this other translation from another version. Has your child died? It was given back. Has your wife died? She was given back, restored, right? Has your estate been taken away? Again, in the same way, was given back, and so on and so forth. And then the end of this passage is great. Okay, so he says, you know, uh, basically, yes, I mean, use things, right? But never, just like in Lao Tzu, here there is another important link. Remember when Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching says, using without possessing, use things, do not try to possess them forever, right? And so Epictetus says, in much the same way, treat things, anything, as do travelers at an inn. When we travel, when we go to a hotel, we use things, and then we are not, right, we do not possess them, and they don't become our own property, and so on, right? I mean, so the idea is use without possessing. But this is also, it's not only about things, that we find, like traveling, when we stay at a hotel, an inn, right, and so on and so forth, but also with people, right? I mean, we can't, because that would be being possessive, which is a problem to begin with, right? The problem also, with the so-called, if you will, think about that, good emotions. At times we believe that some emotions are, I don't know, negative, like fear, and so on, anger, and so on, right? Hatred, and certainly they are not, they are bad, right? But even the so-called, good emotions, love. Well, love can be, right, also this very destructive, as we know. I mean, not only love in, say, the romantic sense, that, may, I mean, it doesn't have to, it is a distortion in a sense, but think about when situations of relationships, then they become situations of, I don't know, jealousy, and whatever, when the passion becomes too strong, and we know that there are, many problems may arise from that situation, which would be, I mean, I'm simplifying, maybe I don't want to be trivializing as well, but a situation that should be a situation of love to begin with may completely change, and become something completely different, right? I mean, a situation in which a person wants to dominate another, possess another, and so on and so forth. Think about so many. But also, again, not just from, I mean, even interpersonal relations in the family, relations between right, parents and children, and so on and so forth. They are too, right? I mean, the degree of freedom, that's the care. To care for the other is also to love. To love the other is to love their freedom, right? I mean, but again, this means that one has to be away from an emotional attachment which is too strong, and one has to practice, right, these emotional detachments, right, even in situations in which one is emotionally very involved, and particularly in those situations. Okay, I hope that I made this clear, and that I didn't simplify or even trivialize this too much. Okay, so, and then I wrap up. But if you go to section 14, same idea. If you wish your children and your wife, that's gendered, of course, at the time, whatever, right, your partner, whatever, and your friends to live forever, you are foolish, for you wish things to be in your power which are not so, and what belongs to others to be your own. Right? That's precisely what we are talking about, right? So, if you don't want to be disappointed in your desire, of course, I don't know, maybe I didn't say that, but desire is key here, right? I mean, it's the source of emotional life, right? I mean, we do desire things and so on. Then desire things that are in your power. Exercise, he says, therefore, what is in your power. And what is in my power is also to put a limit, to something. That's the point. Detachment, right? Emotional detachment, apatheia, is also, we might translate as that as saying that one has to know their limits, right? So that's basically the idea, okay? And there are so many other important points that we can't touch on all of them, but again, read the whole thing, pay attention, especially, like I said, to the highlighted sections, write something, um, contact me with questions, comments if you have any, and I hope I gave you a sense of this wonderful type of thinking, right? Which again, the Stoic tradition, which is not only found in Epictetus, other thinkers, I mentioned some of them, but also outside of the Stoic tradition. We certainly have the possibility of, and in other traditions, we have, I made some links already, I have done so during, you know, uh, this, this class, but in daily life, we find this attitude, and many of us maybe already practice this, even perhaps unaware that it is the Stoic kind of, but it is. There is a tradition as well. It is important to know about this, and I leave that to you to think about, elaborate on, think about this in the context of uh, real life, daily life, lived experience, because I think that this is, personally, I think that this is a very fruitful way to think about our experiences, and the experiences maybe of other people as well, and of many circumstances in our lives and in the world. Okay, all right. So see you next time, and again, then we will schedule another, the last Zoom meeting, during the week for the final exam that we are not taking. Okay, bye.